Hello, I am Rachel Oshinsky. I'm from Purple Goat College Consulting. I'm the founder and a college counselor. I'm here today with Ellie Martinez, who works as the assistant director of the Intercultural Student Affairs for LGBTQIA plus services. I butchered that name like a little bit. I
You're right. That's exactly what it is.
Okay, great. I was like, as I was saying it, I was like, am I making sense? I'm reading it off the page. Okay, so your title, Assistant Director, Intercultural Student Affairs for LGBTQIA plus services. That's a long title. What does that mean?
Essentially, that just Intercultural Student Affairs is a division within Emerson College, and all it means is that I'm here to do programming for LGBTQIA plus students.
Right. Awesome. Um, could you please describe the LGBTQIA plus community on campus?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the reasons why I've been at Emerson for so long. Um, if you ask any of our students on campus, they will say to you that they pretty much assume everybody on campus is gay unless proven straight. And that's their words, not mine. I think we have a very gay campus. We have a lot of faculty, a lot of staff, a lot of students. I think this is a very welcoming community. Yeah, I feel like the students say it the best. It's a pretty queer place. Yeah.
Do you have a numerical estimate on, how many queer and trans students there are, or what percentage of the campus identifies as such?
Unfortunately, no. Our data doesn't show that when students are registering for class. There's no box for that. Unfortunately, we do have statistics on other things, but not that one, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fine. I've also heard this. I took a tour of the campus last week, and the students were like, all my friends are queer.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay, so speaking about the work that you do in your position, what sorts of programming do you offer to LGBTQIA plus students?
Yeah, of course. Quite a few, actually. One of my passions this past year, I became a trained yoga teacher. And I was so excited to bring that on campus. So one of the things that we do is every body yoga. And it is a slow flow restorative practice for students that are transitioning or in larger bodies. The point of that is to help students feel present in their body. A lot of times, students that are transitioning might have out of body experiences, sometimes disassociation, and this type of practice really is very grounding and is very slow, allowing the student to focus on their breath and be present in the moment. The restorative part of it is actually, again, one of my passions. It helps students operate out of the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps them come out of that fight, flight, or freeze kind of mindset, and helps them access this restorative practice that can, fill them up again. So that's one of my passion projects that we have going on this semester. But we also have trivia nights, which is very, very fun. This last one was actually on Beyonce after she became the most Grammy award-winning artist of all time. And that one's actually really fun. So we pick kind of a queer icon, and then we have this trivia night based on their career or whatever they're known for. And we have these huge cutouts, and that's the grand prize at the end of the night, which is really fun. The goal there is just to kind of bring students in community and just share space. We also every year have a lavender graduation. And this is a separate graduation that happens right before the general graduation, and it's just a more intimate. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things that I look forward to, because once you've been, it's just unlike any experience on campus, because you get to know the students so well, and you see them at their best and you see them at their worst, and then here they are graduating, celebrating their identities, and it's rewarding for everybody that attends. But the students get rainbow tassels, cords and like tassels that they can again wear for general graduation. But this one's just a little more private, and it's also fun for the students that might not be out to their parents. So they can kind of have like a separate graduation that maybe is more true to them before they get to the general graduation. We also have a rainbow reception that we do every year. And that one's more like a buffet style, like lunch dinner type of situation where we bring the whole community together, and it's kind of like the welcome for the beginning of the year where everyone can meet and figure out what departments they're in, network, figure out if they want to do any collaborations for throughout the year. But again, another event that we really, really look forward to.
That's awesome. So many programs.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, we talked about programs. Let's move on to resources. What sorts of resources are available for LGBTQIA plus students, either from your office or for other offices on campus?
Honestly, it depends what type of help they're looking for. So, how can I answer this question? More likely than not, any student affairs department is going to have someone on staff that is queer identifying, and you can request to meet with any of those staff members when you have something going on. So a good example is actually, like, let's say that you are looking to get an internship, but you feel like your presentation as a queer person might be stopping you from getting interviews or accessing certain type of networks or anything like that. You can go to career services and ask to meet with a queer identifying staff member that can coach you through that process. And that's the same for international student affairs. With intercultural, it's a little bit different because our services are really here to advise student organizations. So I am an advisor for the two queer orgs on campus, which is Eagle and Theta. And so they come to me with anything that might be acting as a barrier to get them to do the things that they're planning to do, if that makes sense. Yeah. But aside from that, we also have a few departments. So we have healing and advocacy, which is one of the confidential resources that we have on campus. So you can go see them if you have experienced like any type of trauma or harm. And the really cool thing about healing and advocacy is that they can actually advocate for our students in a way that most departments cannot. So for example, let's say a student brings forth a claim and it's being investigated and then it's taken to court. Healing and advocacy can actually go to court with our students in a way that our department isn't able to. We also have counseling services who have a lot of queer identifying staff members there as well. I'm trying to think, because there's just so much. I think that's most of it, but then again, the student organizations as well can act as a resource.
Great.
Yeah.
What about healthcare on campus? Do you know what sorts of services are available to queer and trans students?
Yes, so I've been at Emerson for 6 years. Before I was in the Intercultural Student Affairs, I was actually working in the counseling center. So the college does offer short-term individual therapy. There is no session limit. It's usually by semester, but the student can always come back the following semester. We also have like same day appointments. So like say you're not really interested in going to therapy continuously. You just need like an immediate kind of like resource to like talk to someone about something that might be happening. That's a same day appointment. They also have like a referral line for like medication and to get testing done through psychiatrists that are like off campus. In terms of like the internal medicine part of the campus, I want to say they're mostly nurses and then they have a consulting doctor, but I can't remember what his name is, but I do know that they also do a lot of like sexual health advising. As we know, what's the right word here? Our sexual life for queer students is very different, and there are different precautions that need to be taken. So we definitely have those services on campus as well. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I forgot. We also have a wellness section, and they mostly do outreach in terms of like education. So they're the ones that might come like onto the cultural center and maybe do like a sex ed workshop here at the cultural center. And they also do like a lot of workshops on like healthy relationships and stuff like that. I want to say that's the majority of the health services. Yeah.
That was comprehensive. Thank you.
Well, we're working on it. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about housing. I learned that you have a gender-free housing option. Could you explain how that originated and how that works?
I actually did not know that.
Oh!
Let me look that up. That's actually cool. You have to excuse me because so during the pandemic, the little building was actually under construction, I want to say. And it opened, I want to say 2 years ago. And at that time, I was working in a different role, but I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I can tell you what I've learned.
Please, I would love to. I mean, I should know that, right?
Okay, we're collaborating. It's a collaborative effort here. Okay, so what I learned from one of my student tour guides is that students have an option to house with someone of the same gender, or they can do gender-free housing where like they're just paired with whoever of whatever gender identity as a roommate. And I also learned that they have gender inclusive bathrooms on every floor in the dorms.
Yes. I'm sorry, I did know this. I was thinking we had like a separate building or like a new facility or something like that. No, I did know that. I think Emerson does a really good job of allowing students to empower themselves in the best way possible. And so they do kind of really work with the students before they get on campus to figure out like how they're going to be most comfortable while they're here, especially because I think it's a requirement unless you get like some kind of accommodation. I think you're living on campus, if it's not for the first 2 years, it might be for the first 3, I want to say. And yes, I actually was here when Emerson was transitioning most restrooms into gender inclusive restrooms. So I actually got to see that change happen on campus, which I thought was really, really good. At that time, I was in the counseling center. And I just remember the construction of like taking down the signs and like making sure that like the accessibility stalls were exactly where they needed to be. It was definitely a huge undertaking, but very, very cool.
Nice. Okay. Transitioning to a different topic. Have there been any recent instances of homophobia and or transphobia on campus? And how does the institution respond to such events?
Unfortunately, there have been. It's kind of tough because you would hope that in today's day and age that we wouldn't experience those type of things. I will say the things that we experience here at Emerson are not of the same caliber of the things that I have seen on other campuses. They're more like microaggressions, which are still not obviously acceptable in any way, shape, or form, but they're not as aggressive as I've seen on other campuses. So one of the examples that we've seen this semester is Theta, which is our genderqueer student organization on campus, had a fashion show, and we had some students sign up for it using the wrong pronouns in a mocking manner. And those students never showed up, and it kind of just stopped there. But it was still very hurtful and very damaging and upsetting. In those instances, I am actually the advisor for them. So we just open up a space, have that discussion, and figure out how we can support them better from these type of things happening. This is the first time that we've seen it happen this semester, and it's kind of challenging to figure out like how you can stop someone from doing those type of things, because it's a registration process and you want students to be part of the things that you're planning and coordinating, and figuring out a way to figure out like who's there with the right intentions and who's not is a little tough. So yeah, if I'm being honest, we're still actually trying to figure out how to move through those instances. We're actually in the middle of doing a benchmarking project with other colleges to get this same type of data to figure out how they're dealing with these type of instances. But what we do is that we just try to be supportive of our students, and whatever it is that they might need. If they're feeling unsafe, we make sure that we're there. We make sure that ECPD is present, and just, you know, have open lines of communication.
Great. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Moving on to a happier topic. What is the best thing about being an LGBTQIA plus undergraduate at Emerson?
My God. There's so much, I think. One is that I think you can truly find a community here at Emerson. Funny story. To me, it's funny. Historically, both of our queer organizations, Eagle and Theta, would go to the Create Change conference. And this year we weren't able to go. Well, the students weren't able to go because it's the first year back full-time on campus. And they're still adjusting to what that looks like. And so they felt overwhelmed with like figuring out how to be off campus for a week in the middle of like finals, if that makes sense. So they weren't able to go this year, but historically they have gone every year. And one of the things that we get feedback is that they're always taken aback by other people's experience at this conference, because for so many people that go to this conference, it feels like they're in their community for like the first time, completely surrounded by their community. And for our students, they're like, yeah, this is the regular day at Emerson, you know what I mean? So I think the students can definitely find their own community, definitely find like-minded people. But the other part of it is that because we are a communication arts college, there's this ability to really kind of explore this identity in a creative way that I think some colleges might not be able to, in the sense that one, there's a lot of funding for students to create their own projects, and there's a lot of access to things that students normally wouldn't get access to. So there's a lot of organization on campus that allow students to borrow cameras, video cameras. We have studios on campus. And that's just like from the production point of view, but there's a lot of people on campus that can help with, you know, editing, writing scripts, advising on scripts. So I just think it's not only can the students find their community, but they can kind of create content that they're not getting on general like TV or like not so much social media, because I do think things are changing with social media, but I think it's empowering for students to kind of create content that they can see themselves in.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, we're wrapping up here. One of the final questions. So you had mentioned earlier with Lavender graduation, you get to know students well over the course of their time, and then you see them move on. So I want to ask, what is your favorite thing about working with Emerson students?
Honestly, they just remind me so much of me. And I didn't have this resource when I was going to college. And if I'm being even more honest, if I had this resource when I was in college, it wouldn't have taken me as long to graduate as it did. It took me 8 years on and off to get my undergrad. And there's just something so fulfilling to like see a student come in their freshman year and be so unsure of themselves, and then like the day of graduation just be like, I'm graduating, I got a job or I got an internship, or I got housing in LA and I'm gonna go chase my dreams. It's just so fulfilling to see that transition and to know that you had a small role in it. And it's really rewarding to see them, go off and start their lives outside of Emerson. Yeah.
Thank you. That sounds wonderful. Okay, final question. If prospective students and families want to learn more about LGBTQIA plus life on campus, how do you suggest they go about doing that?
So you want to go to emerson.edu. And honestly, if you just type in LGBTQIA services, everything will pop up. But if you're looking for niche things, just type in Intercultural Student Affairs, which is my department. You click there, and we actually have a whole list of like resources and information about the campus and specific services that we have for the population.
Great. Thank you so much, Ellie. This was so lovely to speak with you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right. Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.